everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Human Blueprint. And I have Herman and my wife on and myself, Bernard. And Herman, I got a question for you. I've people that I know that are going through anxiety, stress, and depression. And what I find really strange is that in 2019, we have so many things around us. Mm-hmm. We have cars, self-driving cars soon, it's actually out. We have food, we have money, we have a lot of stuff. But how is this happening?
So how many people would you say that you know that actually have that?
Not the self-driving cars, but...
No, but I'm saying like the depression and...
There's more and more people now.
Yeah, I would say...
It's increasing?
Like, yes.
Rapidly?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some degree of depression.
Mm-hmm. So would you say this is common amongst society now?
I would say so,
yeah.
Yes.
Right. So do you know why?
Bits and pieces.
What would you say, each, just from your own opinion,
Yeah.
before we go into this?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
I think, at least from my perspective, that because we have so many of these external things, it's come to a point where we don't have to hunt. We don't have to go gather. We don't have to do a lot of stuff. I mean, we still have jobs, etc. But it leaves this gap of what's our purpose? Like, what are we supposed to do with life? Like, we have everything that our ancestors dreamt about. And it's come to that point where it's like, okay, well, now what?
I feel we're so disconnected. Sitting behind the screen, we're more connected to our cell phones. We're more connected to, with technology, we feel like we can sort of reach someone from the other side of the world, but yet it's still so empty. And I feel, when I go on Facebook or social media, I always see the best, people's best faces forward.
Yes.
But behind the closed doors and the curtains, I know that's not necessarily what's going on.
Yep.
But yeah, like feeling that pressure that you got to be a certain way, but that's not the truth.
So let's dive deeper into this then. In order to address this, you have to learn to define what it is. So what would you define depression to be? Because if you cannot define it, then you can't learn from it.
I can't define it, but if I had to, I would say lack of direction, lack of purpose.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I would say lack of fulfillment.
Okay.
And just maybe feeling they cannot be their best selves, or feeling paralyzed, not being able to see clearly, not being able to connect.
Mm-hmm. So let's break this down. A lot of people don't understand when they have depression is because they're stuck in reverse. They're stuck in the past. So raise your hands. Okay. Let's say this is a river and it starts here and then it ends here. So as it's going, oh, something it didn't like. Something happened, some traumatic experience, something that didn't go your way, altered the course of how it's supposed to connect to this. Then got unhappy, bad habits, get old, in pain, suffering. So then it's going completely off course and it never gets to the point of what you're talking about as purpose. But what we have to understand is if depression is stuck in the past, we have something called memory, and we haven't learned how to empty the memory so we can restore that memory back to factory settings, like they say, so that you can then reuse it for something more beneficial so you can get to the end. But every time there's something that we put in our life as we hold on to as a traumatic experience, it keeps putting more and more things in the way, diverting this river, this stream to the end, and it makes you divert to a completely different course. So you can never live in the present.
And okay, so as you're explaining that, I'm thinking about when people are usually going through depression,
yes,
they take antidepressants.
Correct.
That doesn't realign anything.
It does not. It just suppresses it, and it keeps all the things there stuck. And it keeps all those things stuck. And so the problem with depression is also you have too many choices, and they go through the inability to make a choice. So let's say you were going to get lunch. You can't make a choice. Do I get pizza? Do I get this? Do I get that? Do I get this? What do I do? Too many choices. So what happens when you're bombarded with more and more choices and all the pressure is building up for you to give answer like this? What happens?
You can't.
Why?
Because you have way too many choices. Like you can't make a decision.
So then when you're off kilter again, like we showed, you want to use your hand, and this is the stream, and then you go off kilter every single time. You don't make the choice, You stay stuck, worried about what didn't happen, what you regret, what could have been happened, what if. So then it just sits in, and that negativity stores what we call depression.
So that's why you feel so lost.
That's why you're stuck in the past. Anxiety says, okay, we can make the choices, but you know what? We're so stuck over here at the end. What is the end result every single time? Then what happens? We never make the right ones over here to get to the end. So then you're always worried, am I going to make my flight? Am I going to make that light? Am I going to make this? Am I going to get that? What's for dinner? What's over here? Am I going to find the loved one? Am I going to be able to find someone to care for me? Am I going to have someone to support me? But if they're always over here, and they didn't do what was necessary over here at the beginning, they never get to this.
So they're stuck in the future.
So then they're stuck in the future. But this is called present, right in the center. This aligns and connects like a bridge to allow yourself to forget and forgive what you did wrong in the past so that you can realign and refocus what your target is for the future. But if you're focused on one or the other, present never meets at the bridge, so you never connect. And then when you never connect, then you're at a loss.
So I guess back to what Han was mentioning about people on social media doing all these comparisons.
Yeah.
So they're usually looking at what their future, what they want as a future.
So this is someone on social media. Let's say you got your phone and you have your phone scrolling through. Okay, what does someone have? What is someone showing off? What are they projecting? Ooh, someone has that car I like. Oh, so then that goes over here as a target. But then you know what? I'm at this age. So then I go into depression because you know what? They got it, but look at how young they did it. Oh, they have it, but look how easy they got it.
Okay, I get it. So social media I shouldn't say all social media, just in general. When you're doing that comparison and looking on Instagram and always doing that, you're never really present.
No.
So it's either you're looking to the future or looking in the back, thinking about the past or something.
What you should have done, could have done to get to what that person has.
Okay, so that makes sense now. Why it causes so much this anxiety, depression, stress, and everything else. Even though on the surface you can't really tell because it's attractive.
And if we know that this, our body, is supposed to always sync with our mind, but then if our mind and our bodies are separated, then both illnesses will develop singularly, which means the mind will develop their own mental illness, the body will develop their own physical illness. And then when they're no longer synced, then they no longer heal. So then you need to be treated as your mind separately and your body separately, and then it will never be healed to its full capacity.
And that's why drugs don't really work.
Nothing that you can necessarily take externally should be the only answer.
Okay, I know this is going to be a blanket question, but if people are suffering from this depression, for example, what's something they can start with?
Take away as many choices as possible and become as simple with the very first thing right in front of them. So let's say it's lunch. Okay, Monday I'll have this, Tuesday I'll have that, Wednesday I'll have this. So then it's like only one choice. Don't say Monday I'll show up and I'll decide then. Then it's like you have 20 different choices. All that time is wasted. What are you supposed to do?
So a bit of planning, a bit of scheduling.
Right away.
Okay.
Discipline. Have to get rid of the distraction. It's because when you have all these choices and you don't have a definitive target and all these so-called distractions fill up your focus, then that focus can no longer be directed. And then if it can no longer be directed as to where you want to go, as where the target is, then it's like 1 minute you're in depression, next minute you're anxiety. 1 minute anxiety, next minute in depression. And all because your present moment hasn't been cared for. It's not being cared for. It's not being nurtured.
Okay, so next question, people with anxiety, what's something they can start with?
Well, first thing, they have to stop taken the things they think they need externally, such as the sugars, the foods, the taste, the luxuries that they think they need to experience, or things that they need to get a high off of. Because that will just exasperate, which means to amplify that one problem.
Okay, so again, simplify.
And what we have to do is, just like in advanced math, isolate where the problem is so you can solve for the solution. But everybody doesn't isolate anything. They isolate where the happiness is, but then fill everything else with the baggage. Fill it up with all the distractions. And so there's no more space or operating power to use to complete the task at hand. Memory's overloaded. Wasted.
Yeah, I'm just, while you guys are talking, I'm just thinking about people that I know and what they're going through and how they can make these little shifts in their life.
Of course.
Just to change the course, to realign, I guess.
It's like a computer. So you're a very computers guy, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you help people understand this. Your computer has a separate memory bank space, correct?
Yes.
That's where you store it into the hard drive. Then isn't it that you need X amount of RAM with a lot of space to drive that processing power? But how come people don't have that space for the processing power? Because it's all filled with distractions. And then the memory bank that they have was all the pain and all the things that happened or didn't happen yet. And then if it overloaded and your computer overloaded and didn't have enough space, what do?
It crashes.
It crashes. So then we make poor mistakes when we crash.
So where's stress in all this?
Stress is everywhere and anywhere.
So past, present, future? Like...
Everywhere and anywhere. And a lot of people don't realize the amount of little things they get stressed over. Didn't go my way. Oh, didn't get the traffic light. Oh, didn't get the coffee at exactly this time. Oh, this person didn't answer the phone when I called them at that moment. Stress about anything and everything.
So is this... Okay, go.
Sorry, and I just want to share a bit like how my tolerance for stress and even my own awareness that I was in a stressful situation and I didn't know. So I was seeing your father for a few months, and every week when I would speak to him and he would say, "Oh, were you you seem to have a stressful week this week."
Yes.
And in my head, I was like, not really. And I would honestly, answer him, and I would think that, and I believed my answer. And I said, "Oh, Dr. Sue, I didn't think I was that stressed." So, and it was just like a few months later, like I think 2 months later, that it registered to me. It's like, oh, I realized that what I define as a stressful situation is when someone's screaming, yelling, and kicking and all that stuff, but not really. Like that's actually not stress. Like my body is going through stress, but I wasn't even aware of that because my tolerance and definition has really changed. So once I was aware of that, I said, okay, well, now I am stressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. So you want to know how much stress you put on your body? If you were to just even hurt your pinky finger and you go and pick something up, it doesn't matter what you pick up, how light it is, it will still pain you because you're used to using the muscle to go and grab something, or using the habit that it's just natural to pick something up this way. Same thing with the stomach muscle. You may not realize how much you use it until you actually need to use it to get out of the bed, walk up the stairs, go up and down, right? In and out. And so people don't realize it until it becomes too much. And that's why they have to be honest with themselves and say, you know what? Why do I react this way? Why do I not look as good today? Why do I not look as good yesterday? What happened in that time period? Isolate it, then create the solution. But if you don't isolate them and you just go about life as you want without isolating the problem, then those problems just compound.
So is stress always bad?
No. Look at an athlete. He's under or she's under the most amount of pressure to perform at that moment with a limited amount of time. But they get it done. They get it done. They get it done. What stress is bad for them is if they don't have the switch to learn how to shut it down at night so that they can take care of themselves to recover. if they know how to install that switch with a great trainer, then they can recharge at night so they can do the exact same thing again the next day.
Okay, because there's certain okay, again, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but when I'm under stress, I actually function better. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but there's certain states that I'm just more focused once I'm in those moments.
And I get that, but it doesn't mean you have to necessarily be in that moment of stress to perform. Because it's like, and as an athlete, when they practice, they make every single shot, score every single time with ease, shoot 100%. But as soon as they put pressure in and they put someone in the way, known as an obstacle or a defender, then all of a sudden percentages go this way.
It's like the playoffs,
right?
the finals,
right? Who's shooting 80% for the entire game? 90%, none. But yet, do you think that they're worried about every single shot they missed, or just focused on making the next one?
Yeah. Well, the superstars focus on making the next one.
See? That's what defines and separates them from just being average. And so for us, if we know that there's a problem, we isolate that problem of stress so that we can continue focusing on greater and greater things rather than letting that one little isolation rob us from everything else in our future.
And I guess going back to the sports, because they practice so much that doesn't matter what situation they're in, they're always ready.
Correct.
So it's almost like when we look at life, it's usually, at least what I found, if I keep practicing things and whatever shows up, it almost doesn't make a difference because you master that.
So now, for myself, I was lucky enough. I had your dad, I have you to kind of, guide me and point me in the right direction. Like, so for someone who is leading a stressful lifestyle, but they don't know it, like, what are some things that they can do, or how can someone become more aware of identifying these blind spots or these things that are creating stress in their lives?
Well, it would immediately show with their health, with their patience, with their attitude, with just their demeanor. Are they sharp? Are they quick? Or do they not have a second for you? Then they most likely are stressed.
Okay.
But if they took the time to actually genuinely have a conversation with you, took the time to actually figure out are you doing okay, took the time to just, how are you doing today? Then maybe they're not as stressed. But if all those other signs are showing that they are stressed and they don't see it, like how maybe you said it, then that's a little dangerous, because then how long does that have to go for before certain signs get worse for you to wake up and see, yeah, you know what, this isn't good for me.
I almost wonder if that goes back to, like, we're from Toronto. A lot of people that, like, we know are super busy.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're busy with, but they're just super busy. Like, if we wanted to meet up with somebody, we got to book in advance.
Yeah.
It's
A month or two out.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And again, I understand there's work and family and all that type of stuff, but that much, that's how busy people are at. Like, I don't know if it's because they're busy, or it's almost like the culturally or society says, okay, if you're busy, you are, I don't know, successful or something. I have no idea what
You're
story
important,
it
or
is.
you're...
But
Yes. So a lot of people use the word of busy to validate that they are important, like you said, so that they can continue to feel and feed that egotistical side that they are accomplishing something. Real people who are in the top positions, C-level, higher, whatever it may be, they don't just say, you know what, I'm busy here 2 months out. What they'll say is, you know what, I have X amount of time in a day. This is my schedule. I could do my very best to fit you 5 minutes in this spot, but that's the most I can do. If they took you seriously, they would do that. But people who fill themselves up with all the egotistical busy can't see you for 2 months because they have this, and this, and life gets in the way so that they could feel important. They could feel significant. And they have to be careful with that, because what you don't realize is you're rushing your life away and you don't have time to slow down for things that matter the most. Then they're always over here in anxiety because they're focused on, oh, I need to get this, I need to get that. By the time I'm 50, I must have this, this, and this.
I don't even know who even came up with those, like, plans.
Yeah.
When I think about mine, I think my mom actually created my plan in life, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's just, when you start to think about it, it's like, this is kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why am I doing all these things? Like, why is I, like, I don't even understand where most of the times I'm trying to go after things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But now it's a little different, because now I'm doing things to definitely make people better, definitely make Han a little happier. This guy point that out for everyone. But it's there's definitely more purpose for sure now.
And that, what you just said, you have to put meaning to more things that you do every day. Most people, when they talk to you, they don't put the meaning behind it. So they'll say, you know what, Bernard, I like you. Are you going to believe me?
No.
Right? But if someone says, you know what, I like what you brought to the table, this is what we can do to make it better. What are your thoughts? All of a sudden you open up your mind and say, let's see what we can do to build this. Right? So you have to put a little more meaning behind every little thing you do, because a lot of people have this wrong concept, and it derived a lot from religious beliefs. They believe they're going to put their hands together, look up in the sky, something's going to come down, hit them in the head, and call that purpose. Doesn't work that way. Real purpose is when everything you do, you give meaning to. Perfect example was at the airport. A gentleman does garbage. The happiest person you'll ever meet, singing, dancing, the whole everything, as if he was on Broadway. The most happiest person. Why? Because he had the least amount to worry about. And he gave meaning to everything he did to make sure the airport was the cleanest airport you've ever seen. Do you think he's going to lose that job?
Unless there's robots or something.
Right? But who better to put in that position than someone who was like, I got to do this again.
He found joy.
See, he gave meaning to what he does.
And it's now when I think about it, he's probably found more joy with his occupation,
of course,
than most people who have way more.
And paid way more.
But he's found it.
Correct. Because he's not worried about what happened in his past. He's not focused on what somebody else has or what he has to have by 50. He's focused on the present and making the most out of it and bringing meaning to it.
And I guess that's the reason why I never liked cooking before. First of all, I learned cooking very late in life, like about 6 months ago.
So thank you for your honesty.
Yeah. But I never liked cooking because like, oh, it's so mundane. This is so boring, so tedious. But now when I cook, it's because there's meaning behind it, because it's for Han's health, for our health, for even just to be a better example for others as well, for guys, cook for your women or men or whatever it is. But it's to provide, and I actually enjoy doing that now. I actually enjoy waking up early and preparing fresh meals for Han.
But you see, you give so much meaning to it, and it had no financial outlays tied to it.
No, I'm not getting paid for any of those meals, by the way. Right? Absolutely.
So it's
zero.
Completely genuine.
Yeah.
Yes, it's.
But you see, everyone looking for purpose, like you said, they tie it to this. So that's why they sit here, look to some religious belief or something, look up in the sky and just magically wish something comes to them so that they could find this, because that's what they're told. Rather than giving meaning to everything and do what you do best with your talents, learn something new every day, build skills around those talents, give meaning to everything you do, and you create your own market, your own economy. And that's called an entrepreneur.
I guess also when you're doing that, again, going back to the topic of depression, anxiety, and stress and all that, when you're doing those things with meaning, then there's no real room for those feelings. There's no space for those things anymore. Because you do have a purpose and meaning in that present moment.
So my question is, now knowing that when someone has purpose and they find meaning to what they do in every task, everything that they do. So as someone who cares about the people around me, and what can I do to support these people?
Well, first off, you got to get healthy. First off, you got to make sure you're at your best every single moment. First off, you got to make sure you stop making bad choices that you know are not great for you. First off, you got to make sure that you're learning something new every single day. First off, you got to make sure that everything you do is not just for yourself, but for always the bigger picture.
Okay. So for myself, I need to be that example.
Everyone has to be the example first. If we're not the example first, no reputation to build on, no one will listen to you.
It's because before I would try to fix people, try to save people, or try I don't know, just try a bunch of stupid things.
Yeah.
But I'll never, during those moments, I wouldn't focus so much on myself. And not saying like a selfless way. I'm not focusing on myself because I'm not trying to reflect on myself. So I'm trying to like fix them because of whatever it is that I don't feel happy with them. So it's like, oh, you shouldn't be depressed, or you shouldn't be unhappy, you shouldn't be this, and you gotta go do these things. Obviously it hasn't worked. So yeah, I think it would probably have a better impact to be a better person.
And that's why when you look at today, everyone's a robot behind a computer doing what they're told, just becoming like a lab rat with the computer, as opposed to saying, you know what? Let's get out to what actually sustains our life, known as nature. Let's give back to that. Let's get integrated into that, involved in that, and figure what we could do to harness the same energy that allows it to thrive.
Yes, especially in a big city. I know for sure I don't really observe as much. Like now I'm being more aware of that. But growing up in the city, you just like whatever.
You take it for granted.
You do. Because you have, well, now you have Netflix and everything else. You have so many toys, so many distractions.
Yeah.
You don't even look out the window and it's like, hey, look, there's a tree or a bird or squirrels. And
then what do people do? Binge watch. So that's like handcuff. So that you have to watch and it just keeps you like a prisoner to it. As opposed to little at a time.
We do that.
No,
We're
don't.
guilty of that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Do a little at a time so you maximize every single moment.
Yeah.
That's all you want to do.
It's a little binge. Mini binges. No, that makes sense. I just look at this as if people don't become more aware of what's happening, there's way more candy out there. There's way more distraction now.
Of course.
You can get rid of Instagram, something else is going to pop up.
Of course.
You get rid of Netflix, there's going to be a bunch of other things. It's just being aware that, hey, these things are, in moderation, they're okay, but you don't want to consume your whole entire life, or else you're going to end up with basically all the things we were talking about. And just being more, definitely more mindful.
And be very picky with what you do with your time.
And I'm sure reality TV shows aren't helping.
No.
I don't even know why they're reality TV shows. I don't think that's reality. But I don't know.
A lot of it's staged, but yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of stress, like we said, you have to make sure that you can identify and isolate each one. So then once you isolate each one, then we put the solution in place. But if you're not willing to identify it and isolate it, it's always going to be there. It's always going to compound.
And so being with nature is one way to help. What other activities would you recommend for someone to sort of help soothe their soul, or just to,
it's almost like disconnecting to reconnect.
Yeah.
Of course. Reconnect to what actually mattered first before any of those things existed. Right? So it's like you have to make sure you meditate every day. Get that calmness, get that peace. Exercise, stretch every single day. Try to sweat, or at least break a sweat every day. Make sure you're always learning something new every day. Even if it's the smallest thing, like a word or just something. Learn something every single day. Make sure like you're always taking care of all the things you committed to every day. Build that reputation, build that trust within yourself so that you can build that with other people. So that when it's now time that you have this experience and you have a story to tell, you want to make sure that when you share it with someone, they receive it in the same manner. So that when they receive it, it's like them cutting down on the amount of mistakes and time so they can get to where you were at a shorter period of time so that they can bring more to the world.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Make sense?
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, those are great examples and things that
And good solutions.
Yeah.
That's practical.
Yeah,
You have
for
to
sure.
have the solution. If you don't have the solution and you only identify all the problems, what good is that?
Well, that's why you end up with drugs,
See?
right? So that's why, obviously, we didn't want to promote drugs or anything. Right? We wanted to give them a solution. So
Yes. Yeah. Nothing of those things that we call external pharmaceuticals will ever fix something that incurred by you internally.
But there's a lot of side effects.
A lot of side effects.
That's a different podcast, different topic.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Herman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.